Welcome into a brand new edition of WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson, looking at the team state championships. Hard to believe we're talking about it this late in the year, but the year we've had, it's good to still be talking wrestling, I guess, at this point in the year. And got a different background. If anybody heard the PA podcast, the podcast that Jeff and Eric did, had to switch it up a little bit since they want to call me out. So, and don't worry, I got the blue on. Thanks to the Burrell folks for hooking us up. We really appreciate that. We love you guys. But I wanted to just point out this blue shirt to Eric, who may or may not be listening here. This is 95, Eric, and this is Toy Story. I don't know if you ever heard of it or not. It's a pretty popular movie from Disney. Has a couple characters. They're called Woody and Buzz. They made 4 total movies of Toy Story, by the way, Eric. I didn't realize you were so old that you didn't understand that,
Wow.
but
You you
I just
you were going hard. You were going hard at my man Eric Knopfsnyder because of the comments he made. My gosh, like you don't want to tick off Greg Warnock because he may come at you like a savage.
I thought Jeff that he and I were boys after the Warnock episode we had, but
Apparently not.
man, he came at me like a crazy man
Yeah,
a couple days ago. So
he did, man.
I had to get that shirt back out and just represent.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't have your back. I kind of threw you under the bus too with the
Well, you did, yeah.
with the
I mean,
alcohol in the back. Like I kind of said, we're kind of a podcast based around high school wrestlers, and you're going to be, broadcasting your alcohol in the back. Probably not the best look.
although you
But
told me to put it there.
I did
So.
tell you to put it like that. It's a good backdrop. You have a heck of a bar, man. It's a nice bar. I like it. I like hanging out in your basement, but I guess in retrospect, it may not have been appropriate. So it
Yeah,
is
that's
what it
right.
is,
I
Greg.
got,
I'm,
I got
I'm
the
glad
whole
you
rest.
aired out your grievances. Now you're okay.
I got the whole rest of the basement here, so we still got sports themed, so it's all good. I don't get that fancy PA power drop like you got. That's some fancy stuff right there.
Hmm.
On to the recapping from AAA this past week. You look at the brackets. Every district with a champion in this thing. Delaware Valley had an opening win over LaSalle, 52-18. Cathedral Prep over Carrick, 66-0, setting up the quarterfinal action. And we'll just kind of say all 4 results, and then let's talk a little bit about them, Jeff. Springford defeats Delaware Valley 37-17. Central Dauphin with the upset over Bethlehem Catholic 29-26. Waynesburg over Cathedral Prep 54-12. Williamsport over Bellefonte 33-32. Let's start with obviously with WPIAL and Waynesburg 54-12. I don't think too surprising that Waynesburg gets the win here, but dominating fashion. Cathedral Prep without Jacob Van D, Panero Johnson all the way up to 172, but Waynesburg didn't wrestle Rocco Welsh and still wins big.
Yeah, I mean, you had said you're kind of surprised maybe it was a little bit lopsided. I'm not at all, really. I mean, even without Jacob Van D, who I'm told is like upward of like 125 ish range, so probably the reason why he didn't go. But Waynesburg's just so solid, even without having Rocco Welsh in. They were just completely dominant, all the way through. Noah Tustin's the one that got pinned at 215 by John Campbell, who is a super regional qualifier. He's a very tough wrestler. It's lopsided, but Waynesburg's just that good. And I said this on the Power Hour with Eric: is you can might as well just send the trophy to Waynesburg because they are just they're that darn good, right? And you look at all the way through the lineup here, only a few changes. Mac Church up to 126, Fatoris down at 120. So I'm sure Church having to make weight every single week, going all the way through to the state title, probably had a hard time holding the weight potentially. Rocco, maybe we see him not go at 152, get him healthy, ready to go for the the semifinals and the finals. The biggest match of the day was Luke Augustine, state champ, versus Panero Johnson from Cathedral Prep, who's going to Iowa State. So Iowa State versus Pitt, and obviously Panero's up 2 weight classes. However, that's still a pretty good matchup. Luke Augustine was able to beat him 3-1, but not surprising really. And I think we're going to see a lot of this throughout the rest of the way through. And remember, this is the quarterfinals, so the semifinals and the finals, when they come up, I can see Waynesburg putting up 50 on most of these teams coming up, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about the gap between the two is probably at least 20 points, right, from Waynesburg and the next team down in the state throughout the entire. Well, there's Bethlehem Catholic, Nazareth, Central Dauphin, Cathedral Prep, any of them. So yeah, I guess the big question, I guess if you would have told me Rocco Welsh is out of the lineup, I would have thought, Cathedral Prep had more of a chance. But hey, they got the pin at 52, did Cathedral Prep, and it still didn't make much of a difference. Rocco Welsh, it might just be, do you think it might be just a weight thing too for him, or do you think it's
Yeah,
more injury?
no, I think it's probably more weight and just resting. To be honest with you, after that state tournament, I'm pretty sure some of them may have had bugs of some sort. I would assume because they didn't. I thought, like you saw Henson didn't look great. Maybe there's something going around, but I honestly think that with Rocco is probably preemptive. Like, hey, let's give him some rest. A lot of these guys. I mean, and that's what we talked about before the individual state tournament was how many of these guys are going to be banged up after a 5-week stretch of just brutal matches, one after the other after the other. Rocco banging heads with AHR over and over and over again. That's going to take a toll on you. So, they had some time to rest up. Maybe now it's the weight thing, but I honestly think you're going to get a full Waynesburg lineup come, Saturday at Cumber Valley. I don't think it's going to be any issue. And to be honest with you, Greg, even if Rocco Welsh doesn't even travel to Cumber Valley, they're still going to win. They're still going to win regardless because they're that solid, they're that tough.
Yeah, definitely. The team they'll face, Williamsport, they had a tight one, 33-32 over Bellefonte. Couple guys up in weight classes like Jude Swisher up to 138 for Bellefonte, but tight one. But Williamsport gets the win.
Yeah, and that was a great match. There was a lot of really good. So last night was a night full of fun quarterfinal action in both AA and AAA. I thought there was a lot of good action going both ways. Williamsport beating Bellefonte 33-32 was a really good one. There was a couple matches that I thought could have went either way. Rossman from Bellefonte bumps all the way up to 285, beat Charlie Cruz 2-0, which was I thought Rossman's a guy who's up from 89, so that's he's given up some weight. But the biggest match was Sebastian Robinson from Williamsport got a major decision at 172 pounds right out of the gate. That ended up being the difference there for Williamsport. So yes, we're gonna we see Waynesburg and Williamsport, and there's a couple good matches, right? We have state runner-up Cal Nasdio from Williamsport, who lost to Caden Williams in the state finals in AAA. Him and Kai Sheptick, I think, is going to be a great match at 106 pounds. You got the Bauer brothers, Braden and Riley Bauer at 38, 45-ish. They can kind of move around there. So you could potentially see a Stone King Bauer rematch, or maybe even a Riley Bauer and Wyatt Henson match. So outside of that, though, Williamsport's going to be struggling, right? They're gonna have some a tough road ahead of them to get past Waynesburg, which obviously I don't think they are, but I think there's going to be some fun individual battles within that overall match.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Riley Bauer if he end up facing Henson, if Rocco Welsh is out of the lineup, bumping him into Welsh. It'll be interesting to see what Riley Bauer ends up doing. But yeah, I agree with you. A couple really good individual matchups should take place. The one some may call it a surprise, Central Dauphin over Bethlehem Catholic, 29-26. Your alma mater, Jeff, getting it done.
Yeah, man. It's hard to not get excited about that because Central Dauphin, it's a place I grew up. I wrestled through the program, and they're head coach Jeff Swigert, still the head coach there. He was my head coach, and I'm just really happy for him. And that's nothing to say against Jeff Karam and Becca because Jeff Karam's a great coach. I love him. Talking to him, he was on the show I think like 4 times 1 year in a row, and he's a great guy and he gets his guys ready. Central Dauphin just was able to pull out some hats, some rabbits out of the hat like crazy, and it really started at 138 pounds where Josh Miller pinned Matt Mayer. Now Matt Mayer was at 32 majority of the season, bumps up to 38. Miller didn't even make it to the state medal round. He was a state medalist last year, if you remember. He lost to Curtis Phipps in the semifinals. And there's that famous picture of him sitting on top of Phipps, like Phipps isn't doing anything. He's on bottom. It's kind of a funny picture. Miller pins Mayer, which no doubt is the match of the night. That's the one that swings it. Evan Gleason beats Buckman 5-0, which was a tight one. The other one was Ethan Pay at 172 beating Justice Bazzi 4-3. Pay is a guy who has a losing record over 3 years in Central Dauphin. And he is a 3-time regional qualifier, but you know the schedule of Central Dauphin. Ethan Pay beats Justice Bazzi 4-3, which was probably the biggest, not the biggest surprise, but the one that I thought, man, these guys are ready. They just looked like, just watching that match, man, Central Dauphin was ready to go. And then, of course, Stewie gets a fall at heavyweight to lock it up over Spezza to put them ahead. Yeah, I mean, Central Dauphin, it's a surprise in the sense that, CD is undefeated. They came in number 5 in the state to Becca's 3. So, it's not a huge upset, but on paper, I thought it was a pretty big result for the Rams, and now they have a chance to potentially be in the state finals. And I said this on the PA Power Hour was, the winner of the Becca CD match, I expect to win over the Delaware Valley Springford match. Now Springford, they're very tough, right? So I think that match is going to be tight. But CD, if they wrestled like they did against Becca, they're going to the finals.
Becca without Dante Frenzy in the lineup for their team. Also, Tyler Kasak up a weight to 132, Matt Mayer up a weight to 138. Do you think if with Frenzy in the lineup and coupled with Kasak down, Mayer down, that Bethlehem Catholic wins that match?
They're in a much better position to win that match, absolutely. And I'll say this for Central Dauphin, Matt Repos, who did not have a great state individual tournament, majors Ashton Campbell at 126, 8-0. That was huge for me personally to see Repos, who, again, I don't think he looked great at individuals. He got a major over Ashton Campbell, who is very, very solid. I'm not saying Frenzy and Campbell are a wash and they're the same. Frenzy beat him in a wrestle-off, but it was close. If I was Becca and then maybe I want, that Repos and Kasak match, what they thought was, okay, Campbell's going to either get 3 or give up 3, and Kasak's going to get a 6 if he goes up to 32, right? With him and Repos, it was a 3-1, 3-2 match at state, so that's a 3-point match. What they weren't expecting was Josh Miller to get a fall. And the one match that I thought could have went either way, in which it did go back and forth, was 145, Andrew Harmon and Ryan Garvik. Garvik's a freshman who was high up on our top incoming freshman report. I really like him a lot. I thought he was actually going to beat Harmon. He ended up losing 11-9. So, yeah, you throw in Frenzy and you change around some weights and things are going to get different. But, I think you wrestle that 145 match a couple more times, it's going to go Garvik's way. I don't know. I think it's you can say what ifs all night, but at the end of the day, CD won, right?
Yep, absolutely. So now we go into the semifinals here. So you talked about Springford and Central Dauphin being tight. You mentioned you have the edge to Central Dauphin. Do you think it's going to be, with how many points do you think it's going to be within here between this matchup?
Oh my gosh, I think this will be a 5-7 match. I think there's not going to be. I don't think there's going to be much wiggle room for either side. Now, of course, each has their big guns, right? And we know Springford, we know what they bring to the table. Jack McGill, state runner-up, nearly beat Jagger Condomiti. Joey Milano at 189. He can go either way. He can go 89. He can go 215. Those are the big guys. But then you have Zach Needles, who I think is a very, very solid senior for them. And, of course, Cole Smith down at 106. I think him and Liam Flanagan is going to be a really good match. Springford's got some guys that they're very similar to Central Dauphin, and they have a lot of regional qualifier level guys. They don't have guys that are necessarily going to come out and blow you away, but you have guys that are going to keep it close. I think CD's got to get bonus at 38. I think they got to get a win at 45. I think Repos against Quinn Smith's got to potentially get another major. They're going to have to win some close battles. It's going to come down to, bonus points like it always does, right? Who gets them and who doesn't. But I think this is going to be tight. I could see it being a 4-point, 5-point match between these two.
If you're looking at Waynesburg on the other side, looking like they're going to be big winners in the semifinals potentially. Waynesburg in the final against Central Dauphin Springford. Is there one team if you're Waynesburg, you're like, I'm hoping and I'm rooting for this team, or does it not even matter?
No, it absolutely does not matter for them. And I hate to say that because that takes all the fun away from it. But, for me, so like I'm looking at it from a position of a fan standpoint. There's certain matches that I want to see, individual matches. Of course, with Springford, you have some of those big names like Jack McGill and Joey Milano. I'd like to see some of those matches. With CD, I'd like to see some of those matches go down, especially between some of those guys like Josh Miller and Cole Hammett. I'd love to see that matchup. Guys like Ryan Garvik, depending on where he goes, he could see Cole Hammett. You have down beneath Liam Flanagan and Kai Sheptick, two guys that were very highly rated on our top incoming freshman report. So individually, I like that matchup better. I think that one would be a little bit closer on paper, but Waynesburg still, they're light years ahead, Greg. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And having some of the top guys not only in the state but in the nation, it's hard for any team, regardless of who you are, to stand toe to toe with them and make it a good match, right? So I like the matches with CD, but I also think that Springford is going to come to battle as well. So and they're all going to be at Cumberland Valley, so might as well just let them all wrestle each other, right? Well, let's just put them all in and have them wrestle each other, and figure out some of these matches that didn't necessarily get to happen because we saw a watered down or a very skewed look at the state tournament because we had the super regions, right? So it's nice to see some of these guys match up head to head.
When you look at obviously this year being different, right, with only one team going from each district, but obviously the WPIAL has been very successful in getting 2 to the top 4 or even sometimes 3 to the top 4. You look at the other teams, Seneca Valley, Hempfield. Looking at how the teams are kind of wrestling right now, do you feel like they would be potential finalists on the other side if this was a normal year?
Seneca Valley would for sure. You look at Seneca Valley and they were probably, they have an argument that could be made that they are the second best team in the state. And they just so happen to be in the same, district as Waynesburg. I think Seneca Valley Central Dauphin would be a heck of a match. And I'm not just saying Central Dauphin's going to make it to the finals. Springford and Seneca Valley would be a good match. Seneca Valley still doesn't have enough for Waynesburg, but they certainly could be top 2 in the state. But so could Nazareth. In my opinion, Nazareth is a team that I think is right up there with the best of them. Hempfield, another team. Maybe, depending on. Here's the thing with Hempfield: they have some really, really good guys, but they have some guys that aren't that great. They don't, with a team like Central Dauphin, all their guys are pretty good, pretty decent, right? They don't give up a lot of bonus points, and then you have some hammers that are always going to win. So I would say Seneca Valley definitely would be in the top 2, top 3 in the state had they been in the state tournament for sure.
You look at, speaking of Waynesburg, one thing we haven't really talked too much about, we did talk about how they have a lot of good individuals nationwide. How would you, I'm not sure what nationwide as far as high schools, but where does Waynesburg's team rank nationally?
In terms of, and this gets into the public school and private school thing because, if you look at Blair and Sem, that's not really comparable. And you also have to look at the weights.
They could compete against them.
No, they absolutely, yeah. No, they 100% could compete against them. I would say they're definitely top 10. Waynesburg's a top 10 team, potentially a top 5 team in the nation right now, currently. And here's the thing. The one issue is other teams are wrestling with 14 weight classes. Pennsylvania is wrestling with 13. Waynesburg really benefits from that, having the 13 as opposed to the 14. Not saying that they couldn't fill it, which they could, but their 13 are very, very tough 13s. When Eli Mackel and Noah Tustin are your weak links, so to say, or Joe Simone, like that's saying something because those guys are studs in their own right. So when you look at the national level, Blair, Malvern Prep, Wyoming Seminary, those are teams that are 100% going to bring it, 14 weight classes all the way through. But Waynesburg would hang. And you look at the other non, private schools, if you will, or, I think Waynesburg's absolutely neck and neck with any of the best, quote, public schools in the nation for sure. You don't have the amount of talent that Waynesburg has and not automatically become in that conversation. And then you throw in these other guys that they have, these journeymen like Colton Stone King, right? Cole Hammett. These are guys that, kind of floated around the national rankings in and out of them. They're the guys that are going to make the difference. And even like Ryan Howard at heavyweight. I mean, that's a guy who's, been a 4-year starter for them. He's going to make a huge difference against a team that, has just a mediocre heavyweight. So I really do think Waynesburg in the nation, you can make the argument that they're top 5. And I would love to see them. When we tried multiple times to get it set up with a Wyman Seminary Waynesburg match, it just could never come to fruition because of multiple things with COVID. But we did get to see Malvern Prep and Waynesburg at the PIAA tournament. Of course, Waynesburg was without Luca Augustine. So yeah, I mean it's comparable. There's comparables in there, but Waynesburg can definitely hang with all those schools.
Is Wyoming Seminary starting their season now, or is it completely washed?
No, so it's not completely washed. National Preps is going to have a tournament. It's just not going to be like just like everything in the current state of things. It's not going to be how it was normally. So it's going to be a little bit different. So Wyman Seminary is not going to be wrestling like dual meets. That's for sure. But they should everything go as planned, they'll be wrestling the quote national prep tournament.
I was going to ask, maybe there's still some hope for the potential matchup. I'm sure Waynesburg would love to have that opportunity. You look at, you mentioned the 14 down to 13. They definitely benefited. Darnell Johnson would have been that sure. guy filling in the spot. And he's, obviously a very solid contributor, a guy who would, fill out the lineup, so it wouldn't be a bad wrestler by any means in that spot. But, yeah, I definitely agree. To lose someone in the upper weights is definitely the best for Waynesburg, considering how strong they are underneath. You look at AA on the other side. The results: Lackawanna Trail beats Archbishop Bryan 39-30. Chestnut Ridge over Brookville 41-21 to give us our quarterfinals. Quarterfinal results: Boiling Springs over Lackawanna Trail 28-24. Southern Columbia over Notre Dame GP, who was one of the favorites, 56-14. Reynolds over Forest Hills 50-21, and sporting the shirt, Jeff, Burrell 32-31 over Chestnut Ridge. And let's start there. What a win for Burrell to get in the top 4.
Yeah, I mean that was just an incredible match, and I'm gonna put up on the screen the comparisons between the match that happened 2 months ago and the match that happened before. So if you look at the screen here on the left, you have that's from January of 2021. On the right, you have it from March. So this is almost exactly 2 months later. Chestnut Ridge beat Burrell 33-30 at the Brookville Ultimate Duels. Yesterday, Burrell was able to win 32-31. It was a 31-31 tie on criteria. And you look at some of the differences in these box scores. Daniel Moore won by tech fall over Colby Christie last time. This time around, Colby Christie gets pinned by Trevor Wyant at 160. Now, this match started out, the Burrell Chestnut Ridge match started out much in favor of Chestnut Ridge. When this started getting going, I was thinking, man, Burrell's going to have a hard way back. So Riggleman from Chestnut Ridge gets a forfeit at 113 pounds. Callan Bowman, who is a former state runner-up for Chestnut Ridge, didn't make it to the medal round this year. He majors Farah, which I thought was a huge turn of events for him personally, because you look at what happened last time. Bowman got a 5-0 decision, so that was huge, adding that extra point on the board for Chestnut Ridge. But then Salerno only gets a decision over Kobe Burkett at 132 pounds, 132. Last time Salerno beat Ross Dahl 6-4. Ross Dahl is able to get a win and sudden victory over Sean Szymanski, which I thought was that after that match, I'm thinking, okay, it may be out of the question for Burrell to come back from this, because that was such a toss-up match for them. And Ross Dahl lost last time to Salerno. This time it beats Szymanski. Aaron Edwards had a big win over Bowman at 138 pounds, 8-4. Ian Oswald only gets a major over Jack Moyer at 145. last time around, Jack Moyer was the savior at 145 pounds. He beat Edwards 3-1. So that was a huge. Now all of a sudden you started seeing the wheels and the momentum changing direction. Again, didn't we talk about this before? Damian Barr, wasn't he the hero in the Burgettstown match?
He sure was, yeah.
Damian Barr comes back again, beats Luke Moore 5-4. Last time, Luke Moore beat him 20-9. I just want to put that in perspective. 2 months ago, I'm going in as a wrestler. I'm thinking, man, last time I wrestled this dude, I got beat up, 20 points scored on me. I lost 29. I don't know what he did in those last 2 months because he wasn't at the state tournament. Mentally, I don't know how you get in the mindset that I'm in this match. I think that's a credit to the Burrell coaching staff. Damian Barr comes out and gets a 5-4 win over Luke Moore to completely wipe the slate here, and all of a sudden you go from getting a major decision and now giving up a decision. That's huge, right? That's a 7-point swing for them. AJ Corrado gets a fall at 72. Cole Clark gets a fall at 215, which was big. He got a fall last time over Bowman as well, and then they forfeit to Hornack, who last time he got a fall in 58 seconds over Brock Holderbaum. So, it didn't start out good for Burrell. Those first 4 weight classes, because you think, all right, they give up a forfeit. Bowman gets a major. Dahl wins a tight one over Savansky. Salerno only gets a decision. And now all of a sudden you're thinking we're kind of in a hole. But Burrell just kept on battling back, man. I love it. These two, I could watch these two wrestle 10 times. And I think what's nice about this one, there's so much mutual respect between these two programs. And I heard Chris Smith and George talk about it last night on the call about the mutual respect after the tragedy that happened with Kai Burkett, who was tragically killed in an auto accident. Burrell sent a contingency of folks out there to pay respects to him. That's huge. There's a lot of mutual respect and a lot of admiration between Coach Josh Deputy of Chestnut Ridge and Coach Josh Shields of Burrell. I mean, these guys both just keep on setting that bar higher for each other. So it's kind of one of those special stories, right, that you have between these two, because they seem to always be wrestling each other. But I mean, talk about such a turn of events. I mean, Burrell had to win some matches that they didn't last time, and man, Damian Barr was that guy. He was huge in that match. And Cole Clark obviously was huge as well. But I look at that, and he pinned him last time, so he should have pinned him this time. But it's still pretty big.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, I didn't get the opportunity to watch the match last night, but when I looked at the box score, immediately my eyes went to that match at 152 for Damian Barr. Luke Moore is finished 7th in the state of Pennsylvania. I mean, he was a solid wrestler throughout the entire postseason, finished 7th in the state. Damian Barr didn't even get out of the WPIAL. He finished 4th in the WPIAL, losing to Slovic, who he had pinned previously. So Barr was the hero in the WPIAL championships, and now he's the hero here because absolutely, I think everybody going into it would have thought, even not giving up a major, at least giving up a decision right there. And to win that match, ultimately won the match. And yeah, I agree with you, though. These two always within 5 points of one another, it seems like. I mean, it's always like one match swings it either way. And this time it was Damian Barr. He got it done for his team. And, after getting that win, it just, when really, they knew they had to get, 3 wins, 3 6-point wins in order to win the match, did Burrell. Then you have them with AJ Corrado, Cole Clark, Cooper Hornack, and Hornack, Clark, Corrado. They've all gotten falls already against their opponents against Chestnut Ridge. So you had to feel confident going into those last set of matches.
Yeah, I mean, really going forward, I mean, it was such a, and again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? And these guys, it's easy to start getting that momentum where Chestnut Ridge is winning some matches, and when I say winning, they're not giving up bonus points, right? Because and Smitty said this on the call multiple times last night. They're like, it's a win for Chestnut Ridge on the scoreboard, but it's really in the chess match here, it's a win for Burrell because they didn't give up bonus points, or they got bonus points here. So, and that's the cool thing about dual meets is it's every person counts, every wrestler counts. It's not just your big guns. It's everybody. It's all all the wrestlers that are out there putting in their foot on the line, they're all important, right? Whether you give up 6, whether you get 6, whether you give up 3 or 4, it's all about how you persevere through that. And Burrell just showed it, man. They wrestled really tough. It's exciting for them because they're top 4 in the state now, right? They're top 4 in the state. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They beat a very tough Chestnut Ridge team that had beat them earlier. So, yeah, I mean, they've got to be pumped up for this. And I'm really excited to see them in the state semifinals because that match is going to be a good one, Greg.
Yeah, let's talk about that. First off, Reynolds getting the win over Forest Hills, 50-21. Forest Hills, obviously, their lineups adjusted a bit. Jackson Arrington wrestling all the way up at 152 pounds, as an example, after winning a state title at 132. So Reynolds gets the job done. How do these two teams match up, Burrell and Reynolds?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the on paper, right, and the amount of state-ranked guys are high and they're good. They wrestled last year. It was, I believe, the Ultimate Duels. Yeah, it was the Ultimate Duels last year. Reynolds won 43-21. And look, Burrell is Burrell. Burrell, the Bucks find a way to make every match close, right? They don't get blown out, right? They really don't. Even when they're giving up forfeits, they don't get blown out. They always come to wrestle tough. I think Reynolds is the better team when you look at the depth, right? When you have guys, and Eric asked me this on the Power Hour. He's like, were you surprised that only 2 Reynolds wrestlers made it to the state medal round, only 2 placed? And I wasn't, because, they have Caden Berger, they have Gary Steen, who are their stars, but they don't have the other, quote, stars here, but they just have really, really good wrestlers that have, good records. They're just, they just came out of the West and they didn't make it into that top 8. Cole Toy is a senior who I thought probably would have been in the top 8, but he did not. I look at Jordan DeCarmen, Jalen Wagner, Guy Rocco, Danello from Reynolds at heavyweight. He has a win over Jalen Stevens this year. Kane Kettering, Liam Four, and of course you have Gary Steen. Logan Hammerschmidt down at 106. And, I got to see Reynolds and Seneca Valley wrestle up at Reynolds this year. And I was very impressed with Seneca Valley. But I was also impressed with a few guys from Reynolds that really battled hard. Jalen Wagner at 160 was one of them. So, they have some flexibility with where they can move guys around at. I think they match up well here with Burrell. I think they're probably the favorites, but I'm not gonna say that it's locked and loaded. Burrell's gonna give up a forfeit, so that's 6 off the board right now. They forfeit 113, right? So you have to figure, all right, well, we're already down 6. Where are we gonna make up for these points? And I think they have a chance, but I think Reynolds is going to find a way to win. They're 4-time state champions. They're going for their 5th, which would be a record. No one's ever won 5 in a row. Reynolds is going for their 5th. So that's saying something. That's pretty impressive.
You mentioned about saying something, and you talked about that forfeit. I that's where I thought Burrell may not be able to get into that top 4 because they are giving up 6. It's very tough to give up 6, especially when there's only 13 weight classes as opposed to 14. To give 6 and then still be able to get into the top 4 in the state tells you how good Burrell's team really is. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I'm super excited to see it. You mentioned, Reynolds probably coming in as the potential favorite. One team that was looking like the favorite was Notre Dame GP, and they drop a big loss, 56-14 to Southern Columbia. And mainly it's just because they didn't wrestle any of their guys.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was like 5 minutes too late in reading the article that Tom Hausnick wrote about this, and this was a predetermined thing. And when Eric and I did the Power Hour, we had talked about this match being such a good one, number 1 versus number 3 in the state, and then Tom Hausnick, I read the article that he wrote, and in there it's saying how Coach Matt Veers of Notre Dame Green Pond is. They're not sending their starters, right? And you can read the article, you can read about it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but a lot of it was a personal decision for the coaching staff and for the wrestlers themselves because, the backups per se, they weren't able to wrestle at all this year because of the way the school was with being virtual versus non-virtual. And, they had some challenges, some serious challenges in with the COVID-19, trying to figure out how they were going to get guys in the practice room. And he wanted to give him a shot and give him a chance. There's still a thread on Twitter that's going on about, was it the right move, was it not? Notre Dame just won the individual team title for the second year in a row. I think they probably would have, even with all their starters, they would have been a pretty darn good match. And it turned out to not, because Southern Columbia just came in and kind of did what they had to do and took care of business against a team that really didn't have a whole lot of guys there that were used to wrestling. So take it for whatever it is. Some people are saying that it was the wrong move. Some people are saying it's an admirable move because you're getting those non-starters a chance to wrestle in big matches. I don't know. I don't have a real opinion on it. I know Notre Dame was ranked number 1 in the state by us, so it kind of made me look a little silly. But all those teams are so close. Reynolds, Notre Dame, and Southern Columbia. All three of them are very tight. Neck and neck with each other. So Southern Columbia is going in feeling pretty fresh. I think they're feeling pretty good. Obviously it wasn't the match that they expected, but I think they beat Bowling Springs, and I think they're in the finals against Reynolds. I think, and Reynolds and Southern Columbia have wrestled 3 of the last 4 times in the state finals. So why not make it 4 straight? Reynolds, Southern Columbia.
Yeah. Here's the way. I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't have too much of an opinion on it, but I mean, you have to wonder if there's some other story behind it, because was there weight issues with some of their studs that, like, just like with Waynesburg and with some other guys who have like Jackson Arrington being up 4 weight classes, or other guy Panera Johnson being up 2 weight classes, where there were some weight things that happened with Notre Dame GP that would cause them to make that decision. Because I don't know if that one is the right time, but you're throwing them into the Wolves. You know what I mean? Like, you're not throwing them up against a JV team to give them some action and give them a close match. I mean, you're facing Southern Columbia, like you said, one of the best teams in the state. So it's great that they get mat time, but that mat time isn't very much time, because they got beat pretty good.
Yeah, and just to kind of follow up on that, and I agree with you. I know what you're saying. Like, is it really benefiting those guys? And I think it was, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. You can go read the article and what Coach Matt Veer said about the situation. And, I think it has valid points. And again, I don't know. It's my philosophy that, hey, it's your team. It's your, as long as your guys it's kind of like when I talked to Matt Leby at Franklin Regional, when they opted, quote, out of the state, or not the state, the regional team tournament. It was a team decision. It's their prerogative. I mean, if that's what their choice is, so be it. That's on them. As long as your parents aren't unhappy, your boosters aren't unhappy, and the wrestlers and the coaching staff, and they're like, hey, this is what we agreed to. Hey, by all means, man, do what you want. But I know what you're saying is, it's not like they got valuable, quote, mat time against Southern Columbia when they just kind of got wiped around a little bit. But hey, Southern Columbia is the type of team that they're going to wrestle whoever's in front of them. They don't care.
Yeah.
They're going to wrestle the best regardless. And they're looking for a 4th straight time against Reynolds, and they know that this time it could be very different. Last year Southern Columbia was I wouldn't say the favorite, but they were definitely nipping at their heels for sure, and they didn't get it done. This year, I think they smell blood in the water. I think they're ready to go, and that's why I love Reynolds and Southern Columbia. Between you have Chestnut Ridge and Burrell, and then you have Reynolds and Southern Columbia. Those 4 schools can just I'd let them wrestle just every year, regardless of who they have. Let them wrestle every year, because they're always bringing fans. They're bringing always noise. It's great atmosphere. They travel well, and they wrestle hard. So I'm excited for Saturday.
And the time frames for Saturday for those semifinals and finals matchups. So for AA wrestling, action starts at 11 a.m. for the semifinals. 1 o'clock are the finals. Again, all at Cumberland Valley, the finals and the 3rd place match as well, also at 1 o'clock. That's for AA. AAA semifinals start at 4 o'clock, and then the 1st and 3rd place matches take place at 6 o'clock. So again, everything happening at Cumberland Valley High School, and we'll be tracking all of it for you if you're looking for results and Want to know what's happening throughout the entire day on Saturday, we'll have it for you. One thing we want to mention before we head off, want to thank Nick Fuller of Tactical Mind. You see it on Jeff's corner of his shoulder there. Make sure you do check out Tactical Mind. And let's throw it to real quick, Jeff, and see what Nick's up to.
This is the Tactical Mind, and I work with athletes in the field of sports psychology as a cognitive performance coach. Within 5 minutes of talking to a parent, they make the connection right away that this would be great for my kid to have when they're in college, when they're just going through the ups and downs of high school. Who wouldn't benefit from having more self-awareness? Who wouldn't benefit from having the ability to self-regulate our emotions and our counterproductive thoughts? Who wouldn't benefit from having more optimism, not just on the field, but in life?
At the checkout, use promo code POWER to receive 50% off your initial consultation. Again, promo code POWER, POWER, to receive 50% off your initial consultation. Jeff, I think this might be the shortest show we've ever had.
44 minutes. Well, after we did the two-hour show last time with all the champions, I mean, we could have brought on all the NCAA All-Americans from the WPIAL, right? We could have done that. We could have tried to bring Spencer on to talk about, wrestling without ACLs. We could have brought ChemDog on to talk about losing the Carter Staraki. That probably wouldn't go well. We could have had some fun there. How about the South Park boys? How about Jake Wenzel, and Nino Bonacorsi from Bethel Park? They wrestled, they both fell in the finals, but man, they had a heck of a tournament, man. And they're both coming back. Greg Harvey's coming back. He's a Boyertown guy, but he's coming back for Pitt. So it was nice to see.
Even the semifinals, you had all WPIAL, Nino Bonacorsi, Jake Woodley from North Allegheny.
Yeah, Jake Woodley, my gosh, he wrestled great. And, his seed was not indicative of where he was and who he was, right? And it just so happened that, he got hot at the right time. He didn't have a great Big 12, but he came in, man, like a man on fire, man. He just came out and just took people out. And I thought he was close with Jacob Warner from Iowa. I thought he was going to get a win over there. He had beat him in freestyle. But yeah, how about Nino and Jake Woodley right there wrestling? And that was really cool to see. So much WPIAL power there, right? There was so much WPIAL power that you see throughout the NCAA, not only in Pennsylvania, but just the overall nation, right? So that's really cool to see. Two teammates with Spencer Lee and Michael Kemmer, both Franklin Regional graduates that are in the NCAA finals, right? Which is really nice. And of course, two Pitt guys from the WPIAL, Jake Wenzel and Nino Bonacorsi, Bethel Park, South Park, basically neighbors, being in the NCAA finals. That's pretty cool, right? When you have, I think it was like 20% of the NCAA finals all from the WPIAL, that's pretty neat, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it helps. You get a big commit from the WPIAL. Jared Kessler of Connellsville now headed to Pitt. Don't know that I think Kessler had Pitt on his mind for quite some time, but I'm sure that really helps seeing Nino and Jake in the finals.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all to see Jared choose Pitt. In fact, when we were doing interviews for True Power, I think he had a Pitt shirt on or he had something, and I was like, hey, when's his decision coming? When are you going to let us know you're going to Pitt? And he's like, I'm kind of looking around at other schools, and you knew Pitt was always on the mind, right, on the brain, and but like you said, it probably really helped propel him to make that decision. Watching the NCAAs, I certainly would. If I'm on the fence about Pitt and I see that, I'm thinking, yep, I'm where do I need to sign? Because I'd like to be on that.
Do you think it's going to be tough for a lot of these seniors that are finishing up wrestling this season to go onto a team where basically most college wrestlers are probably going to come back? I mean, there's going to be a few that take the graduation and move on, but from what I'm seeing, a lot of guys are planning to come back to take advantage of that extra year of eligibility they're receiving. Do you think it's going to be tough for a lot of these freshmen to be able to make, or a lot of these seniors make an impact in the freshman season?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you're going to see a trickle down effect and kind of a domino effect of the almost seventh year for some people. Scholarships aside, you're going to have crowded lineups. You're going to have people that are there biding their time longer and longer and longer. You're going to have guys that just don't pan out, right? And they were there for 2 years and they thought the third year is my year, but now the starter's coming back. So why I'm only here for another year? Why am I even staying around? So you're going to see teams, I think it's going to be a weird dynamic where you're going to have like your senior level guys and your higher guys that have been there a couple years, like 4 or 5 years, and then you're going to have the guys that have been there for like a year or 2 years. In that middle are those guys that kind of get crammed out, if you will. So it's weird, and we haven't quite seen the unintended consequences of allowing that extra year yet, but I think we're going to start to see that now. And we're also seeing it with a lot of seniors this year. Just because of lack of recruiting and lack of taking college visits, you're seeing a lot of seniors. I'm thinking of like Sammy Starr from Kiski, a state medalist who's not signed yet. That's it's rare to have a state medalist. You'll have a few, right? But it's rare to see as many state medalists as we have not signed yet. And I think that's a combination of one, COVID, and two, trying to figure out who's coming back and who's not. It's
and
a
the
challenge
scholarships then, right?
and scholarships,
probably
yeah.
tough.
Yeah. So it's like a three-headed monster. So it's tough to figure out. But they're gonna figure it out one way or another, man.
No doubt about it. Well, we still got a couple more shows to go, Jeff. We're gonna recap for you the team states next week once everything is completed on Saturday, and we'll also be previewing the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. That's coming up just a week away. So we got a lot of exciting breakdown for that, and then we'll have a recap of that and kind of looking ahead to what's going to be coming in the off season.
Yeah, I'm excited. I don't want this thing to end, so let's just keep it rolling. And there's plenty of wrestling to talk about, right? We're gonna have there's a lot of wrestling going on in the WPIAL. There's cards going on. There's a lot of action going on even outside the season. So we're gonna break it all down for you.
Want to thank everybody for listening in today, and also thanks to Nick Fuller of Tactical Mind for being a sponsor to us here on PA Power. For Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in to WarUp on